Podcast City Network. You're listening to The Everett Lee Show.
Welcome to The Everett Lee Show. I'm The Everett Lee. I want to give a shout out to everyone who follows me on social media and, of course, Podcast City Network, the official host of The Everett Lee Show. Today on the program, I have a veteran and a legend on the program. You may have seen him every Wednesday night at 7 p.m. on FGW Shockwave, Future Great Wrestling on YouTube. I want to welcome the program today, none other than Jaxon Breeze. How you doing there, Jaxon?
How's it going, Everett?
Pretty good. Pretty good. How you been holding up with this pandemic going on? How you been holding up? How you been occupying your time?
Still working on little projects here and there for Future Great Wrestling and stuff, plus laying groundwork for things as soon as things get back to a semi-normal. Laying out groundwork for things that'll happen once we get back up and running, back to normal and stuff. And, just making plans for past, present, and future, actually, for this Future Great Wrestling. So
That's amazing. That's amazing. I miss FGW, honestly, right up front. I miss it. I miss watching the product because I've went through and watched all 24 episodes. And when my daughter's not hogging the TV watching Disney programs such as Frozen, I've been starting to watch the best of volumes that you have out there.
Yeah.
And
you're all caught up.
What's that?
You're all caught up. You're all caught up now.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I'm caught up with the storylines, and here later I want to talk and get into talking about your involvement with FGW. But right off the bat, when we talked before we started doing this today, you mentioned you really don't know much about me, and honestly, I don't. But with the information that you gave me, you've been in the game. You've been in the wrestling business for quite some time, haven't you?
Yeah, it's toward the end of '93, beginning of '94, somewhere right in that area. So yeah, it's been over 25 years.
Wow, it's amazing with the information that I asked you for, and you gave me to have this conversation with you today. I want to first start off and ask you, when did you first get exposed to professional wrestling? What was your first introduction to that?
Oh, shoot. My cousins down in southern Kentucky introduced me to the early stuff that they used to get on TV down there out of Tennessee. I remember the first wrestlers I was exposed to was the Fuller brothers that wrestled out of a promotion in Tennessee at the time. Ron and Robert Fuller. Okay,
I've heard of Rob and Robert Fuller. I've heard of the names. Heard the names there. When was your first experience at a live wrestling event? When did that happen for you?
That would be the first time I ever went to a show. I was actually on a show.
Really? Wow. Yeah. No way. What show was that, if you don't mind me asking?
I can't remember the promotion, the name of it, but it was some guys, the guys I ended up starting out with, and it was for a group out in Portsmouth, Ohio, at a county fair.
Wow. That's amazing there. That's amazing.
The guy that brought me in, the main guy that brought me in was a guy named Tarek. He was called Tarek the Great back then, and he had this feud that he'd been on apparently for a while with the American Kickboxer. I don't know if you're familiar with them or not, but around the tri-state area back in the day, everybody know them, and a lot of the guys that's been around as long as me, everybody knows Tarek and Frank. Frank's the American Kickboxer. But I worked with these guys at my shoot job, and we talked wrestling, and I knew a lot of the ins and outs. I was what they called back then a smart mark.
Right.
But I'd never been to a show. I'd just watch TV and stuff like that and talk to them. And Tarek was a bad guy, and he said, man, you just know the stuff and your sarcastic humor and stuff. You'd make a good heel manager, and I need a manager. And we talked for, I don't know, we talked things over for a month or so, working on character and stuff like that, and the type of persona that he needed for a manager and stuff. And next thing you know, I was in the car with him and Frank, headed out to Portsmouth.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. How did that feel? Just being in the car there and going to do a wrestling show. How was that for you? How was that feeling?
It was God, it's hard to say. It was a lot of anxiety, honestly. A lot of people don't know it, but I have social anxiety disorder and a little bit of bipolar. So getting up in front of people is tough. I don't do well in crowds. Never have. That's part of the reason I wear the glasses a lot. Trick my buddy Tarek told me it's like putting up a wall. And like John Cena, you don't see me. You don't see the real me. You can't see into my soul. That's the way I feel. You can't see my eyes. You can't see my soul. And yeah, it was a trip. A lot of anxiety, a lot of stress because I'd never done something like that, and to have to get up in front of a crowd. And they put me on the mic right away. Luckily, and my sarcastic humor come through, and I just kind of blocked everybody out and just let them have it.
Wow. On the spot, man. You didn't expect that, did you? You didn't expect that, did you?
Oh.
Not at all. That's great, man. That's great. So getting into the business there, having your first experience with it, and then as time went on, you started training at Northern Wrestling Federation, NWF, there with Dangerous Johnny Diamond. Tell me about that there.
Tarek, my buddy Tarek, that's where he was training at the time, and it actually wasn't even called NWF then, and it's one of the oldest promotions running around here, NWF, Northern Wrestling Federation. They're still around. Johnny's passed away, and it's under different management and all now, but yeah, that's where it started out. It was in a little karate school down on Reading Road, and when I started there, we were horrible. And our trainer wasn't very good. Johnny just owned the place. He wasn't the actual trainer. It was somebody else. But I'd rather not mention their name. That was the trainer there at the time. And, and we started running shows there, and Johnny was like, oh, our name was like WCCW or something like that. Uh-huh. And he was like, we can't have shows and have people come here and think that they're going to see WCW type shows because of our name. And he changed the name to NWF.
Okay.
And then, I don't know, I was there 6 months to a year or something, and then Johnny brought in Les Thatcher as the trainer there, which everybody knows about Les.
I looked up I looked up Les Thatcher because I've heard the name before. I've heard names, but throughout the years of me being a fan of wrestling and watching it, I've heard names here and there thrown around. And when I looked up Les there, and he did quite a bit for wrestling. I didn't realize how much he's done for professional wrestling. How was that, having that relationship with Johnny and him? Just how was that?
It was good at first at NWF when Les first came and everything. As you said, Les, was a commentator at Smokey, and before that he was a wrestler and stuff. He wasn't like top of the card or nothing like that. But I mean, to my understanding, Les, to his credit, has things like Ric Flair's first match was against Les Thatcher.
Oh wow!
I mean, yeah, and he was real good, and he came up with guys like Harley Race and stuff like that. So Les was cut from the old school cloth. Was lucky for me. That was great that he came and got involved and everything. It was, it was all good. But him and Johnny ended up having a falling out, which is, and Johnny and him, Johnny locked the doors actually and stashed the ring. We didn't have nowhere to train or nothing, so we all started going out in the country at a buddy of ours' house and training in his front yard, actually.
Damn.
Because we had nowhere to go, and we still wanted to, work and stuff, and a lot of those guys have been working the tri-state area for a while, guys like Tarek and stuff. So we started training in the guys' front yard, and apparently Les caught wind of it and started coming out there and giving us pointers and stuff. And one afternoon, me, Les, and a guy named Brady Labor, who ended up being known as GQ Masters, and a few others, we were sitting there one day, and Les was like, if Johnny Diamond can do this with, the way he was going about it and everything, I don't see why we can't with my connections and my knowledge. And I got you guys as, students, and I think if we all team up, and we can make a go of this. And it's pretty much how HWA was formed, Heartland Wrestling.
Wow, that's amazing. And when I talk and hear stories from veterans and legends in old school, I'm talking about old school and the training is different compared to today. Is there a difference? There's a big difference, ain't there?
Well, it depends on the school.
Okay.
Like if you go to Cody Hawk School, you'll be trained old school for sure. And the guys down south, Jake the Snake Roberts School out in Vegas and different things like that, those guys are going to teach you old school. Dr. Tom, definitely old school. That's somebody, if you listen to Dr. Tom talk about things, it's like listening to Les. All those guys like that, they all still teach the same way, and the guys who train directly under those guys, like me and Cody Hawk and a bunch of others that are out there training and stuff, they all still train that old school way. If you're going to be involved in this business in any level, referee, valet, whatever, you get in the ring and you train just like the boys do. You learn it from beginning to end.
I like that right there. I agree with you right there. You can't say nothing about that. Definitely.
Well,
Definitely.
And that old school tactics, that's why the guys who come out of the particular places that I named, like Dr. Tom, if you come from there, or Sin Bodie School or somebody like that, and listening to all these guys talk, and Cody Hawk in Hamilton, Ohio, he just got the Cauliflower Alley Award a year or so ago, which that's only ever been gave out 3 times ever. And that's because of him teaching those old school values. And look what he's produced, Eli Drake, Sammy Callahan, John Moxley, and the guys that trained with Cody. I can't believe Cody ain't on TV instead of being the top trainer in the world. He could have been a top talent too. He trained with Pepper Parks, who's also known as Braxton Sutter, or, one half of Butcher and the Blade.
Yeah, I looked up stuff here in the last few weeks, looking up stuff with the talent I've had on from Future Great Wrestling, and I've come across a lot of Cody Hawk stuff. There's a lot of stuff out there on Cody Hawk, and just seeing him in the ring and just seeing his matches, because when I'm watching something with the talent that I've had on, is a match with Cody. So I got to see who I was going to be talking with, and I got to see Cody in the ring wrestle. It don't get any better than that there.
Yeah,
it certainly don't. But with Heartland Wrestling Association, I looked up stuff on that right there when the name stuck out to me, as I've heard this before. I don't know where. When I looked up the stuff on Heartland Wrestling Association, there's
a lot.
Yes, there's quite a bit, Jaxon. I didn't realize the talent that went through that promotion there. That's
why guys like Cody Hawker and Pepper Parks and all those guys, and Eli Drake, that's why those guys are as good as they are.
It's amazing. I'm gonna have to go back and look up more and watch more of it, because I mentioned that to you right before we started recording. I'm gonna have to go back and pull up some matches and stuff on that right there. Your involvement in that promotion, what was your involvement in the promotion there for Heartland Wrestling Association?
So most what didn't I do there at one point in time or another, you know. I started there. I was in-ring talent. I was a manager, referee, whatever. I trained with the boys, and back then we trained 3-4 nights a week and used to run 2 shows a week, so we were in the ring a lot. And that's another reason everybody that came out of there was so good and everything. You know, if you're in the ring once or twice a week, you're not going to make it in this business. And we were in there 6, sometimes 7 nights a week, and training and everything. And that place was the perfect storm. I was so lucky that Tarek got me involved where he did and when I did, you know, because just the perfect storm. The right bunch of people came together, and as history has shown, that back then you had 3 major feds: WCW, WWE, and ECW. And those talents, they didn't work around each other at all. And because of the Pillman Memorial Events that HWA put on and everybody's love for Brian Pillman, they all buried the hatchet. And for the first time in wrestling history, everybody buried the hatchet, and everybody was free to work the show with whoever they wanted.
That's amazing.
That set wrestling history, put HWA on the map, and it put an influx of some of the best talent in all the world in one location here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And it, like I said, perfect storm.
That's amazing what I've looked up in HWA's involvement in professional wrestling. Some of the talent I've seen, I was surprised to see on there. Right off the top of my head there, John Moxley, and of course I've seen Cody Hawk, and I found a match I started watching there with a guy known as the Prototype named John Cena, and it was one of the Haas brothers. There's a match on there. I started watching that there, and I remember seeing. I've mentioned this on previous episodes. I remember my first time I seen the Prototype wrestle. I was in Knoxville. I was living in Knoxville at the time, and I took my little brother with me, and my stepmom to go see a WWE house show. And it was back when they first did the Raw SmackDown split. You only had certain talent on Raw, certain talent on SmackDown, and it was the Raw house show. So I got to see a lot of the people I'd see on Monday Night Raw I was watching at the time. And right before the main event was great. Stone Cold Steve Austin versus Ric Flair in a steel cage. I love that. That was one of my favorite Steve Austin matches that you only got to see it if you were there, because it wasn't televised or anything. But before the match, they did a quick match with a guy named the Prototype in the ring. And he's in there just hitting the ropes, doing everything. And the crowd's giving him hell, and he's giving it back. And my little brother was laughing. And I looked at him, and I said, why are you laughing at this guy? Look, he's out there busting his butt, putting on a match there. And I just happened to say this, Jackson. For all you know, within the next 3 years, he could probably blow up and be a big superstar. And look what happened.
John was one of the coolest dudes. He was one of the best guys to have in a locker room. Just his personality, and he is such a ham and a cut up. It was awesome. It was a lot of jokes and a lot of laughs when John was around.
If you can, is there any story that sticks out top of your head that you can share about something that happened with Heartland Wrestling Association? What sticks out? A story you can share?
Oh, jeez. I don't know. I think some of them you've covered. Did you have Cody Hawk on recent?
No,
I know he's told quite a few of them. There's a few road trips. There's and some of them are just so long, and it's hard to give the narrated it down version. The Reader's Digest version just doesn't do most of them justice. Mm-hmm. Especially one of the best ones that was against Les. You need to get Cody on here and have him tell you about Susan.
Okay.
Whenever you have Cody on here, ask him about Susan. I will tell you one. We did a thing called the Mayhem Tour.
Okay.
And we took HWA, this when me and Hawk owned it, and we took HWA on the road. We had a few headliners in the different towns, like heck, saw Jim Duggan was on like 2 or 3 of the shows. But anyway, we get to this one hotel. And, you know, me and Cody was ahead of the whole caravan, so we get there first, get everybody's rooms set up, get the keys, go check out the rooms, make sure everything's good. Well, we go up to the hotel rooms at this one hotel, and they've got Andes mints on each one of the pillows in the rooms. And me and Cody immediately make eye contact and get a big grin. And he's like, somebody needs to go to the store. And I'm like, yep, I'm on the way. So I go to the drugstore, and I get boxes of chocolate X-Lax. And while I'm gone getting them, he's undoing all the Andes mints off. When I'm in the room, got all the Andes mints off all the pillows. And do not do this at home, children, because nowadays you'll get sued over something like this. But I come back with the X-Lax, we break all the individual squares, and we put one in each one of the Andes Mints wrappers and get rid of all the Andes Mints, and then go back in the room and scatter them on all the pillows. And then, of course, some of the inner circle, hate to use that term, but we let a couple people know, hey, man, whatever you do, don't eat the mints. But okay, so a few hours go by. One of our buddies, Chad Collier, he gives us a call and he's like, hey, man, I just wanted to call, tell you, I found my room, everything's good, and da-da-da. Hey, they put these mints on all the pillows. And before Cody can say, whatever you do, don't eat the mints, he's like, dude, I went and gathered them all up and I ate them all. Oh, yeah. It's like, oh, you're kidding me. Yeah, not a good late night for Mr. Collier, needless to say.
Oh, man. That's great.
He ate, I don't know, 10, 15 of those squares, and you're supposed to eat like one. Yeah. Rough evening for Mr. Collier.
Jeez, that's crazy. I've experienced, well, not on the receiving end of it, but over the years, pranks. I was part of something like that with X-Lax, but not like that. There, that's good.
We thought we'd get a couple of the guys, not everybody. We thought some of them would be smart enough because, Cody is known for this stuff. Me, I've stayed in the shadows a little bit, but those that know me from way back, they know you don't leave things like that lay around per chance, because I love that kind of humor.
That's amazing. I like that. That's great. That's great.
Oh, I'll get a few of those from his road trips. They used to go to Pennsylvania, him and Race and Roy Fox and a few of them. Cody's got a few of them pretty similar to that got done to several different people. So, yeah. And we're still pretty active at the FGW arena on that type of thing.
Yes. I mean, oh, wow. With being there at HWA, what's one of your favorite things there that when you think of HWA, what's the one thing that sticks out that you enjoyed the most out of that promotion there?
Oh my God, there's just that was so many years of just golden opportunities, and so I mean, me and some of the guys that were there from the beginning to the end could write several novels on what we learned and seen and things like that. So there's no way to tie up just one thing. Because, I mean, when we had the contract and the Pillman events, between all that, I mean, there was, 7 years of contract, of everybody from old WCW and WWE, everybody from the top guys to the new guys coming in and out of that place on a regular basis. So I got to meet everybody who was anybody and made some real good acquaintances at the time, and at the time some real good friends, but because of the life of pro wrestling, you don't never see them no more. And some of those guys meet so many thousands of guys like me for a couple years and then go on. Shoot, half of them probably don't even remember those times that I remember with them, you know.
Right.
Because there was there for a couple years. I got to hang out with Kevin Nash a lot during the contract days, and the Natural Born Thrillers. If you remember Mike Sanders and all those guys, and Jidrak and all them that was part of that.
Yeah.
They were there and they were traveling with us, and I got to be drinking buddies with Kevin Nash there for a while and stuff, because he was in and out of there so much. And Eddie Guerrero, I got to be pretty good buddies with him for a few years because of the Pillman events and stuff like that.
Yeah, the Pillman events there. How did that all start there during the Brian Pillman events? I've listened and seen him over the years. Back, I remember him heavily back in the Attitude Era, towards the beginning of the Attitude Era during WWE, when he had that feud with Steve Austin. And I remember when Steve Austin was stunning the Hollywood Blondes.
Sorry, Steph, but I lose if I don't speak. I'll lose my train of thought. But during that time period, Pillman was rehabbing his leg and stuff, where he had flipped his Hummer and messed up his ankle, and he was trying to get back ring ready, and he was going to HWA to do that. And, behind the scenes with the guys that were there because of Les. Him and Les were buddies and stuff. And he lived over in Walton, Kentucky. And the stuff that was going on that you've seen on Raw and stuff, like when Austin came through the window with the gun and things that only aired one time.
Yeah.
A bunch of the guys that beat up in the driveway, that was a bunch of us. Cody Hawk, I think, was in some of those even. And stuff and we were all greener and grass, but that when they shot that stuff at Pillman's house, that they used a bunch of the HWA guys in the driveway to get their ass beat by Stone Cold and everything. And like I said, Pillman was rehabbing his ankle there at HWA and knocking the ring rust off and everything at their arena, and when he passed away. And, because of that, Les wanted to do something for his kids. And all the guys there, Brian was really super good guy. He was super nice, kind of quiet and stuff, but super nice guy and everything. And everybody wanted to do something for him. And that's when Les got on the phone and started calling around saying, hey, WWE, can we borrow a few of your guys? We're going to do this event in Norwood where Brian graduated school to raise some money for his children. And Les made some phone calls, and then those phone calls, it was like chain reaction. Everybody started calling everybody and say, hey, did you hear what they're doing in Cincinnati for Brian? Hey, did you hear what they're doing for Brian? Next thing you know, all these people are calling HWA and saying, hey, we want in.
That's amazing. That's amazing. What was some of the...
It speaks for Brian. It speaks for the character of Brian. Everybody wanted to be involved and do something.
What was some of the talent that participated and came to the event there to support Brian Pillman's and memory and Brian Pillman's family? What was some of the talent that's been there at the memorials?
Oh, geez. It went for 4 years, and by each year it got bigger and bigger and bigger. I've actually got the programs that we printed out from them. I'd have to dig one of those up, because just about anybody who was anyone at the time, Stone Cold Steve Austin was there, Ric Flair was there, Steamboat, Terry Taylor, Eddie Guerrero, Conan, Road Dogg, X-Pac, Benoit, Jericho, like I said, everybody that was anybody at the time, the bottom of the card at ECW and at all three feds, from the bottom of the card to the top of the card, there was just so many people there, especially by the last one. Like I said, each year it got bigger and bigger and bigger.
That's amazing. I like that. When I was going through looking at footage and pulling stuff up there, I did see there was one of the events there. I'm gonna have to go back and check that out and watch it there. Yeah, Brian Pillman, I enjoyed what he did in the ring there, with especially what I saw on TV there, and then when he tagged with Steve Austin, Hollywood Blondes, WCW, and in that feud he had there with Steve Austin. I'd never seen anything like that at that time there, Jackson, with the Steve Austin feud, him coming into the house there and the gun.
I remember that episode well. I knew it was happening because we were up there that night. Like I said, they were using some of our guys for getting the beat down and everything. So I made sure I wasn't there at the house that night. I was home, and that was one of the live episodes. And it aired the one time, and you never seen it again. People had a conniption.
I've heard some stories. I heard this. I think there's one story I heard that a grandmother was watching it, and she called the cops to say, you need to go help this.
There's no way you could do stuff like even remotely close to the stories they wrote back then.
No, you can't. You can't. Not too long ago, I put up on my Facebook, I came across a video and I talked about it a few times there, back when Dusty Rhodes was feuding with the Four Horsemen, and when the Four Horsemen jumped Dusty in the middle of the day in a parking lot there. Tully, Ole, and J.J. Dillon jumped him right there, and they tied him up to a truck and started beating him down. And seeing something back then like that was just, wow. I remember it jogged my memory as a little kid watching that, my dad getting all mad and upset that they were beating up Dusty because he was a big Dusty fan. And it's just, you see something like that today, you get the cops called on you. Times have changed.
Shooting something like that nowadays is because somebody drives by and sees it, and then they don't know what's going on, and they're like, oh my God, look. And everybody's got a cell phone, so yeah, next thing you know, cops are pulling up. Is there a problem here? No, we're just shooting this for a TV show, officer. Then you spend the next hour and a half trying to straighten everything out.
Yeah. You ever experience anything like that where something was going on? No? Or you had something going on and then the cops show up and then you have to explain that? Has anything ever happened to you in your years of in professional wrestling?
There's been different things like that happen at several shows, especially like the bar shows. We used to run a thing in Peel's Palace over northern Kentucky. Used to be a big wrestling venue and stuff. And I remember the state police and local police and everything having to be called there more than one occasion. And Metropolis, that used to be in over around Fairfield area, I remember them being called there a couple of times for things that were part of the show, but people walking by like in the mall that just kind of poked in for a minute, seeing what was going on outside the ring and thought it was a riot. Called the police, and next thing you know, there's a whole lot of cops running in thinking that there's a riot in a bar, and then they get there and they realize, oh, it's the wrestling night. Never
mind. You ever say, hey, you want to be an extra, be in the part? Yeah, that just makes it more entertaining, don't it? When people think it's
that, and you get the fans that still love it so much that they believe that much. I remember a few times when guys have had to have the police escort them to the car because the fans were so pissed off that and bought every bit of it and thought it was for real and was just wanting to catch them between the arena and their car. And it's like, officer, do you mind if the two of you escort him to his vehicle, please? We've got about 30 people out here waiting on him, and we'd like him to get home.
I always ask this because I love hearing different stories about this right here. Fan interaction. What is one of the craziest interactions you had with a fan, like going to the ring or being out there in front of a crowd? What was the most craziest reaction where you had that moment where a fan was wanting to get over the barricade and go after you?
oh man, Jaxon Breeze has been through a lot. Early days, I was as dirty and rotten and scheming as they could be, and then I spent a while in the gray area that I thought leaned toward the nicer guy. And apparently nowadays, people think I'm evil, scheming, you know what. But so I don't know. As a bad guy, especially back in the day, 20 years ago, things were different. Fans definitely believed a lot more back then and stuff. So yeah, I've definitely had people tried to come over the thing after me. I've had them grab a hold of me. I've had one guy take a swing at me and ended up taking my hat off. I wear a lot of different hats to the ring and stuff, and guy took a swing. Luckily, I ducked enough till all he did was take my hat off and stuff.
Wow.
But back then was a lot different than now. I'm not sure how some guys would handle it. Well, depending on who was training. The guys that I'm really tight with and stuff, my inner circle, I know what they'd do if they got hands laid on them. Pretty much the same as me, depending on how much hand they got on me. But yeah, you come over the rail. I'm sorry. I'm defending myself for real. Especially this day and age, you don't know about people, man. So heckle me all you want, just don't touch me, man. That's all I can say about it. And that part's legit. I don't care, good, bad, ugly. I don't care. When it comes to that part, I'm protecting me because people are nuts nowadays.
I agree. People you don't know, they become unhinged so easily nowadays. And there for a while, for a few years ago, there were stories about for example, WWE, people trying to get involved. They get over that barricade and decide to become part of the match. And you're there for entertainment. You don't decide to become part of what's going on in front of you. You're there as a spectator to enjoy it. And it just,
and I realize people want to get involved, which that's good. Get involved, especially me when I go to the ring. If you're not supposed to like me, so don't. I don't care. Don't like me. Get in my face, bitch at me, vent all you want. Just like I said, just don't touch me. Don't take it too far. Get involved all you want. I love it. The good guys, the bad guys, it don't matter. We all feed off that. You want a good show as a fan? Stand up out of your chair, make some noise, give us something to feed off of. If we're a bad guy and we go out there, let us know you don't like us. Bitch, we love it. We love it. You love it. Makes it fun for both, everybody involved.
I agree right there. I agree. It kills me though. Someone spend some money to see a show, and then they decide to jump that barricade and become part of it. And what it's like, why? You just wasted your ticket there. You just wasted your ticket. Yeah. I've heard stories. When back in the day, when someone did do that and they were taken to the back, it wasn't pretty. It was not pretty.
And like back when I used to do bar shows and stuff, and usually if a fan that does that is somebody who goes there on a regular basis, and now they just lost their favorite place to go forever because you get banned. You don't get to come back to places when you do something like that. Plus, you just screwed up the whole show, and now had made security have to tighten down on everybody else in the building from now on and stuff like that. That's just bad all the way around.
Mm-hmm. I agree. It is bad. You're taking away what you love too far, and you're taking it away from you. You're just basically pissing on it there. Pretty much. But FGW, future great wrestling.
Yep.
I love what I see out of the product. I've said this a million times, and I've said that a million times, but I never get tired of just saying how much I enjoy FGW, going back from the beginning and watching it and getting caught up with it, since I've had quite a bit of time here in between everything going on, doing a show, running a podcast network with my two co-owners, and just going back watching FGW. And the stories that's being told out of the ring and in the ring. William Wolf becoming Billy. That was pretty interesting. Good story there. Pretty long run there.
Dude, I've done, and I told William and everybody involved in this. I've done this for over 25 years. I've seen just about everything out there, and I used to go to a place down in Louisville that used to be known for serious hardcore stuff. I mean, bloodbaths. People come to the back with these big gashed out foreheads. I mean, I've seen some nasty stuff, but that Amos baseball bat to William Wolf's face, that was one of the most incredible, coolest, wickedest, vicious thing I've ever seen in all my years. That was so money.
Yeah, that I couldn't believe it when that happened there. I'm like, what the hell? And then him waking up, hey, I'm Billy.
The story was awesome too, but but that shot, it was just, and I know there's different clips out there of it in slow motion and stuff, and it's sick. It is sick. And the sound, I was in the locker room, and the sound that it made back there, oh God, it sounded like he was dead.
Jeez, that
you heard it from the crowd too. You heard that hit him on the side of the face, and then it was like brief silence. You could hear a pin drop briefly, and then you just heard the wind go out of the room, everybody at once. And it was, it was sick in a really cool way. That's that thick sense of humor that I was talking about earlier.
that I cringed when I was watching that on TV there, because I brought up when I was talking to last night when I was talking to Shauna Reed, or it was no, it wasn't Shauna, it was Ripper Blackheart, when here in Daytona Beach, when AEW came and did the Fighter Festival, when they started doing the first few free live pay-per-views, 10 minutes away from me and my wife went and seen that. And when that moment during that pay-per-view, when Sean Spears came out and he took that chair and he hit Cody in the head with it, I was way up in the almost nosebleeds there, and you can hear that sound of the chair connecting with his head through the arena, and I just cringe. I just cringe when I hear a chair sound, man, when someone takes a chair. It just like, God, it just chills up my spine.
Sometimes it just got that certain sound that you're like, oh, that was sick.
Yeah, it sends chills. That's about the only second time that I've actually had chills go up my arm. The first time was back in 2015. Me and my wife went up to New York, and we went to SummerSlam in New York. First time been in New York, and the night after I got to experience Monday Night Raw. But there at SummerSlam 2015, the main event was Undertaker versus Brock Lesnar. Seeing Undertaker over the years on TV and actually seeing him come out and experience his entrance, that just gave me chills right there. I was like, wow. And just seeing it, live was an experience that I'll never forget. Just like the chair shot. A chair shot there. I still cringe. I cringe just thinking about it.
Wrestling's good to watch on TV and like on YouTube. Shockwave, everybody. YouTube. Mm-hmm. And but to be there live, nothing ever replaces being there live.
Oh no,
the atmosphere is so much different. It's the difference in listening to music on the radio and being at a live concert.
Mm-hmm. I prefer live. I definitely prefer live. I went back because I've attended some WWE events over the years, and then going back watching it, it just didn't feel the same as it being live right there. Especially SummerSlam 2015 when John Cena was wrestling Seth Rollins. It was the WWE title, U.S. title thing, title for title they were doing. When Cena came out, my ears was ringing from the arena, just, singing along, John Cena sucks. I mean, my ears were ringing after I left out of there, man, on the subway back to our hotel we were staying at. There's nothing like it, man. That's one thing I like about independent wrestling. And I can't wait for it to get back up and start running again. I know everyone at FGW is chomping and ready to get back in the ring. And as yourself, you're ready to get back in the ring to make matches.
Missing it so much. Everybody at FGW is just it's killing them. The whole locker room is just gnawing at the bit and just hating this isolation and stuff. For one, we're people, you know. We need around our people, especially as far as your wrestling family and everything. So, yeah, it's pretty rough on everybody out there, and I know it's definitely rough on the locker room at FGW. And yeah, they will be very, very happy to get back together. Good, bad, and indifferent. They just want to get back to entertaining and doing what they love.
They do, and over the weeks talking with the talent, they're ready. They can't wait to get back in the ring there. And
those who've been watching, and if they don't know, on the Shockwave, you know, while everything's down, there are a lot of things being put out there that hasn't aired before, that maybe only the live crowd seen. And if you weren't there, which, you know, we can only put so many in the building, so not everybody gets to see everything anyway. And not to mention, everybody's been working on different projects from home and different things like that. So there's all kinds of special content. Plus, there's a few things that's been going on behind the scenes that's been slowly leaking out somehow on there also. So there's little tidbits here and there of things that's still going on, things that happened in the past, and there's a few little nuggets in there for things that's yet to come.
That's amazing. It's amazing. One, again, what I like is during this time with FGW talking about filming stuff, that's great. That's one thing I like, because a lot of promotions only have out there with what they have, and FGW's taking it a step further with filming everything and piecing together and putting out there great shows and great content, and having the best of volume, because there's stuff that I've not seen and no one has seen, and it's great that you have that content right there to release. And that's pretty damn smart, Jaxon. That's pretty damn smart on a promotion right there. You have that content.
That's got a lot of years of doing this. That's why Brian has a lot of the guys behind him that he does, like myself and Cody Hawk. You know, we've been doing this a long time, and they're doing the same type thing there that we did back at HWA, which is a studio format instead of a spot show. Like you were saying, a lot of independents, they might run a place on a regular basis, but it's every month or two, not week to week, which that's what a studio type thing is, like the old AWA or NWA stuff from way back when. And now NWA is now doing studio stuff that's online that you can watch, which is kind of that's the kind of thing that I was brought up in HWA. It was always that studio format, which a lot of people aren't going to know what that is, because they're not old enough to remember when that type of wrestling was, and different things like that. It was filmed in a studio for TV in front of a small audience, which is, if you get trained that way and you get the opportunity to get on one of these big feds on AEW or WWE or something like that, you're ready for TV by being trained in this type of format.
I love how it's shot. It's not. I've seen a lot of indie shows and stuff I've watched on YouTube, clips of matches. You got a person out there with cell phone, iPad. The way it's shot, I love the camera angles, and I love how it's cut and edited together. You got that hard cam, and you got your camera guy going around there and getting everything. And I love that.
To our production team, and especially Mr. Neary. He's got some quality equipment that he uses for us and does our editing and puts the shows together for us and everything. And just think, FGW is just 1 year old, Like you were talking before we went on the air about you taking years to get all the equipment you've got to do these podcasts. It's baby steps to develop this and to especially to sink the money into equipment. And after 1 year, FGW has done so much in that area, and they've got such a nice arena, nice equipment, thanks to the people who are with Brian and Brian himself. They've done a fantastic job in that area, and they are so far ahead of the game. We were talking about HWA earlier. It took us, we got lucky, and we hit that Pillman event, which brought in a lot of money because of the students that came from all over the world to train there, which gave us money really quick to build up and buy good equipment and things like that. But at FGW, they haven't had none of that. And in a year's time, they're so far ahead of the game from when I was at HWA and stuff. And they've got one of the best locker rooms that I've seen since back in those times. And I've helped start up like 5 different companies in the tri-state area in my 25 years. So these guys are really on it.
It's amazing. I just within a year, you'd think of it when you first watch it that FGW has been around for quite a while. That's how good the product is when you watch it back on FGW Shockwave there on YouTube. And
it's 100% credit to that locker room. The wrestlers and talent in that locker room, man, they're amazing, and they work so well together, and they've got such a love for professional wrestling and entertaining the people that come to see them.
It is amazing. It's fascinating, and I love it. I definitely love it. If I ask you one one thing that sticks out about FGW that you love, one thing that sticks out, and you probably already mentioned it though, but what's the one thing that sticks out that you love the most about it, working at FGW?
That I love the most about it? The
Yes.
locker room and the guys that's involved there. Some of us on a personal level, honestly, really don't see eye to eye on certain things, but when it comes to wrestling and each other, there's a reason we're a family there, and it's because we accept all of our quirks and idiosyncrasies and stuff that we all have. And trust me, if you're involved in pro wrestling, you're not right in here, trust me. So we are a band of misfits who really care about each and every one of the people that are in that locker room with us. And if we had a beef with anybody there, they wouldn't be there. Everybody there is a true family, and we've been through some shit together. Oh, pardon my French. Bleep.
That's fine. I have no filter, but I'm not dropping F-bombs like I usually do, and showing some respect to you, and it's not needed for this, because I'm impressed and amazed with everything that you've done with the promotions you work for, starting out and getting into wrestling, and it's amazing, and it don't look like Jaxon Breeze is slowing down anytime soon.
Oh, I'd like to think that, but I remember when I first started out in this business, and a few of the guys at FGW have heard me say this over the last year there. I remember when I started out in the business and I was young, and I'd go to some of these locker rooms, and I'd go in there and I'd look, and there'd be a couple older guys. To me, they were old dudes, old gray-haired guys, kind of like I am now. And I'd be like, why in the hell are those old dudes in this locker room with us? And somebody would go, well, that's so-and-so. And it's like, damn, I know their name. And there'd be somebody that I grew up hearing about, and stuff like that. And it's like, he's still doing this? Why? And it's like, now, as I said, these guys have heard me over the year. I'm that old guy. And I need to see it, but it's starting to bug me because now I feel like man, I show up at these shows. Yeah, the people local around here, they know me because they know of HWA and different promotions that I've worked for, and I've done it for 25 years in just this one area. But the guys who ain't from around here and stuff, I walk in a locker room and I know they're the new me, and they're sitting over there. Why is that old dude over there? Why is he here? Is he actually on the show? So I don't know how much longer Jaxon Breeze is going to be around, to be honest.
Man, from what I see in FGW, it don't look like you're going away anytime soon. And I want to touch on that right there. You said coming in the locker room, FGW had some great appearances from some well-known people in the wrestling industry, such as Leaping Lanny Paffa and Amber O'Neal, just to name a couple right there I've seen. Come on there. How was that, having both of them coming to FGW there?
That's very good. Lanny actually goes back with Brian a ways, the owner of FGW. Brian also owns a comic book store, and they met through that. He does a superhero thing which is comic book related, and the Lanny's always came in and done autograph signings and different things like that. And him and Brian from my understanding, know each other pretty well. And and then there's Cody used to do a lot of booking at FGW and things like that. Me and him and a few others. And Amber O'Neal, she is a former HWA alumni. And, and Sammy Callahan has popped in the door there, and Jake something, which, those are Impact guys. And Cody's still in touch with a lot of those guys from back in the day and everything. And they talk pretty regular. And when those guys are in town, a lot of those guys, they remember where they started out, and they like to get back in there and give back. So they hit up Cody or somebody and, hey man, I'm going to be in town, would you mind? And it's like, would we mind? Are you freaking kidding me? Yeah, they just like to give back that, and it's a chance for them to come back and hang out with some of the people that from way back when.
That's amazing. That's amazing. I really enjoyed that episode with Leaping Lanny coming on there and having that match there with. He tagged with Ryan Michaels. That's one guy right there I'm impressed with. From what I've seen on FGW, I'm going to have to go back and look at the best of stuff. I know, not spoiling anything for me, Jaxon, you probably got some stuff with him on the best of that I can look at, can I? Because
Ryan Michaels? Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. He's very intense, isn't he?
Yeah. I was watching when I was looking at, when I was talking to Shauna Reed last night, and when I was looking at matches, because I pulled up about 3 matches to discuss with her, and while I was looking at footage of stuff, I forgot to mention this to her. If she watches back at this year, I stopped and watched one of the matches she's had with Ryan Michaels. Damn, that's some good shit.
Yeah. Shauna's definitely credited, isn't she?
Mm-hmm. She
hold her on up in the ring, and she's, as far as I'm concerned, still kind of green, but she's been doing this a while, and she's really good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I complimented her on.
I said green, but she's been doing this a little over 4 years at least now.
Yeah, she's been doing it not that long, but it seems like she's been doing it forever. Just her style, because I had her on my show last year on episode 110. First time I talked to her. When I talked to her at that time, watching footage of her and wrestle, and then compared to a year now, pulling up footage and watching her, she's added a lot of stuff to her moves and how she works in the ring, and she's gotten better. I mean, way better. She was here, she's took it up to here. She's turned it up a few notches, man.
Well, while you've been watching Shockwave, if you go back and you watch all the guys from the beginning, what they were like a year ago versus now, they've all grown so much.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's a lot of top caliber talent in there, and you know, the world's their oyster at this point. You know, most of them are fairly young and they're solid workers and stuff. You know, they do everything right. You know, it's up to them how far they want to go in this business.
Mm-hmm. And that reminds me, and one last thing I want to touch on you with before we start wrapping it up here. Getting into wrestling, being a performer or working behind the scenes, what could you say to someone about wanting to work in the ring and doing stuff behind the scenes? What advice would you tell someone? What would you give to someone?
Oh man, don't do it. Oh man, dude.
before you answer,
it's a tough life. Being a pro wrestler or any type of pro wrestling entertainer at all, any part of it, is no different than being in a band. You know, the long hours, a lot of time on the road, no food, no money. I mean, you've heard the old AC/DC song, "It's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll."
yes.
Well, it's a lot longer if you want to be at the top of pro wrestling. There's very limited amount of jobs out there, and there's a lot of people that want to do it. That's why I said, you know, the guys at FGW, I'm fortunate enough to be part of that locker room. You don't see many locker rooms like that, and it's up to almost every guy in there on how far they go in this business, but it's a matter of how much they are going to sacrifice and pay to get there, and it's tough.
Agree. Before I almost cut you off there, I was going to say you're not the first veteran that I've talked to in the business that said don't do it. You're the second one that I've heard that say that.
Yep. No, I've had a lot of the old timers in my ear years ago and off and on back in my early career days. You know, I started out with guys like Les and stuff, and they, you know, every one of them preached the same thing. Him, Dr. Tom, Cornette. I met him when I first got in the business through Les when I was at NWF and stuff, when he was still doing the smoky stuff. And he told me the same thing. You sure you want to do this? And I should have listened, because, you know, it, like I said, it's kind of like a band and stuff. It's a hard road and hard life, and everybody knows the rock star life, you know. Very few people make it. And damn it, but once you're in it, I've tried to walk away, I know, at least 3 times in the last 25 years, and I've ended up back again and again and again.
That's amazing. And I want to say thank you for coming on here today and talking with me, and just thank you for everything that you've done with your time in professional wrestling. And I think a lot of people are gonna look back on this here, and when they do listen to this audio portion and view the video portion, hopefully they can walk away with something, and hopefully to be entertained at the same time too, because it's been a blast just sitting here talking to you, and I love hearing the stories, and it never gets boring for me 1 minute doing what I love doing here, doing this here, and talking with people like you, getting the chance to. It's been an honor, sir.
I appreciate you providing a platform for guys like me and in this business to get out there and speak, and it's good every once in a while to get on something like this and get to tell a little bit of my story. Not really what you would call famous in this business. You know, few people right around where I started out around the Cincinnati area. A couple people here and there know me, but it's just local people, and that ain't even nothing famous. That's just me getting to know the people in the business that I've had the privilege to work with. And like I said earlier, I was fortunate to get at the right place at the right time, and got to pick the ear of just wrestling legends that I grew up watching and admiring. And that's the only thing that I've got to give back to this business, is the knowledge that I was able to get from those legends and stuff, and retain in my brain and try to pass it on to somebody who's crazy enough to try and make a living at this.
That's amazing. It's amazing. And I want to give you a compliment of how you've kept up with the times and stuff, and kept up with everything, like with technology and social media, especially social media. Where can people find you out on social media at?
Oh, believe it or not, Jaxon Breeze is on all of them. Just search out Jaxon Breeze. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, and make sure you check out Shockwave on YouTube and watch for me on there, because I make an occasional appearance in a few of those.
Amazing. Good stuff. We'll have to do it again sometime. Have to get you back on and share some more stories. And I've enjoyed it again. And Podcast C Network, your top source for independent podcasting. Head over to podcastc.net for great content and great shows over on the website. Hit them up on Facebook, Podcast C Network. Give them a thumbs up and a follow. Send them a tweet over on Twitter at PodcastCNet. Subscribe to their YouTube channel for video podcast over on Podcast C Network, and on Twitch, Podcast City Network. You want more Everett Lee? Then hit me up on Facebook. Give me a thumbs up and a follow, Everett Lee Show. Twitter at the Everett_Lee, Instagram Everett Lee Show, and audio portions of this podcast and previously released podcast. Head over to YouTube, the Everett Lee Show, Stitcher Radio, iTunes, Podbean, and iHeartRadio. I want to thank everyone for tuning in today, listening, audio portion and the video portion of the Everett Lee Show. I'm Everett Lee. Everyone have a great week, and I'll see you again next time. Another episode of the Everett Lee Show.